For most of history, we told ourselves the mammoths died because of the cold. The climate changed, the ice retreated, the food disappeared. It was nobody's fault. A natural ending to a natural animal. That story was comfortable. It was also wrong. The latest research is clear. Humans hunted the mammoth to extinction. And the part nobody wants to sit with is this. We did it while living next to them for thousands of years. Part 1. The timeline nobody talks about. Here is the fact that reframes everything. The woolly mammoth went extinct on Wrangel Island approximately 4,000 years ago. The Great Pyramid of Giza was completed around 4,500 years ago, which means when the last mammoth died, the pyramids were already standing. Pharaohs were already ruling. Written language already existed. This was not prehistoric in any meaningful cultural sense. This was history, and we were there. Humans and mammoths shared the planet for at least 30,000 years before the end, possibly longer. For 30,000 years, early humans and mammoths occupied the same landscapes, competed for the same water sources, and were aware of each other in the specific and immediate way that large animals are aware of each other when they share territory. And for most of that 30,000 years, the mammoth population held. The herds were large. The range was enormous. Europe, Asia, North America. Mammoths on every northern landmass, thriving in numbers that the fossil record documents clearly and consistently. And then humans got better at hunting. And within a few thousand years of that improvement, the mammoths were gone from every mainland they had inhabited for hundreds of thousands of years. The correlation is not subtle, and the scientific community has stopped pretending it is. The overkill hypothesis, which attributes the mammoth extinction primarily to human hunting pressure rather than climate change, is now the dominant position in the field. Not unanimous, but dominant. The climate was changing. The climate had changed before, and the mammoths had survived it. What they had never survived before was us. Part 2. What a mammoth actually was. To understand what was lost, you need to understand what a mammoth was beyond the size and the tusks. Elephants are the closest living relatives of the woolly mammoth. The genetic distance between them is smaller than the distance between humans and chimpanzees, which means everything we know about elephant cognition, elephant social structure, elephant emotional architecture is the best window we have into what a mammoth actually experienced in the world. And what elephant research has documented over the last 50 years is something that genuinely changes the ethical weight of the extinction. Elephants grieve, not metaphorically. They return to the bones of dead family members years after death and touch them with their trunks. They stand vigil over dying individuals. They have been documented carrying dead calves for days. The grief response in elephants is specific, persistent, and involves behaviors that have no survival function. It exists because something in the elephant's emotional architecture produces it. Mammoths almost certainly shared this architecture. The brain structures that produce grief in elephants were present in mammoth skulls at comparable scale. Elephants remember. Individual humans, individual predators, routes traveled decades earlier, waterholes visited once in drought years. Their long-term spatial and social memory is documented and extraordinary. Mammoths navigating the seasonal ranges of the Pleistocene tundra would have needed this same memory to survive. The evidence suggests they had it. Elephants communicate distress in specific and identifiable ways. Low-frequency rumbles that travel through the ground as well as the air. Raised trunks, specific ear positions. Approach behaviors toward other species when threatened. Elephant researchers have documented cases of elephants approaching humans in distress, not as a threat display, but as a communicative act. Seeking proximity to something larger and potentially protective when their own social group cannot resolve the threat. Now put those behavioral capacities into an animal watching its herd get smaller every season, watching the calves disappear, watching the older members fall and not get up, and watching the thing responsible for that pattern approach again across the tundra. The question in the title of this video is not metaphorical, it is behavioral, and the behavior is documented in the closest living analog we have. Part 3. The cave paintings. 40,000 years ago, humans were painting mammoths on cave walls in Europe. Chauvet Cave in France contains mammoth images estimated at 36,000 years old. Rouffignac Cave in the Dordogne has more mammoth drawings than any other animal. hundreds of them, painted with a consistency and detail that required close observation of living animals over extended periods. Researchers studying these images have noted something that does not fit the simple prey and hunter narrative. The mammoths in these paintings are not uniformly depicted in hunting contexts. Many are shown alone, in profile, with what the researchers describe carefully and with academic caution as attention to individual character. The curve of a specific tusk, the droop of a specific ear, details that serve no functional purpose for a hunter learning to track prey, but that makes sense if the painter was recording something they had watched for a long time and wanted to remember accurately. Some researchers have used the word reverence. Others push back on that word because it implies too much. But the images exist, and the detail in them is real. And the question of what motivated that level of attention to an animal you are also hunting is one that the paintings raise without answering. The humans painting those walls were the same humans whose descendants hunted the mammoth to extinction. And they were painting them with a care that suggests the relationship between the species was not simply predator and prey. It was something more complicated than that. Something that did not prevent the extinction, but that existed alongside it for thousands of years. Part 4. Wrangel Island. Here is the most important piece of evidence in this entire story. Wrangel Island is a small Russian island in the Arctic Ocean north of Siberia. It is remote, it is cold. It is not a place large animals thrive easily. And for 6,000 years after the mainland mammoth population collapsed, it was home to the last surviving mammoth population on Earth. Why did they survive there when they died everywhere else? The answer is simple and devastating. There were no humans on Wrangel Island. The Wrangel Island mammoths were cut off from the mainland by rising sea levels around 10,000 years ago. The separation that isolated them also protected them. No human hunters, no hunting pressure, just a small, isolated population of mammoths doing what mammoths do on a cold island with enough vegetation to sustain them. They were smaller than their mainland relatives. Island dwarfism. A population isolated without predation pressure and with limited resources gradually reduces in size over generations. The Wrangel mammoths were miniature by mammoth standards, but they were alive. They were reproducing. They had survived everything the island could produce for 6,000 years. And then humans arrived. Genetic evidence and archaeological dating put the first human presence on Wrangel Island at approximately the same time the mammoth population began its final collapse. Not centuries before, not centuries after, the same period. The mammoths that had outlasted every mainland threat disappeared within centuries of the first human footprint on their island. 6,000 years of survival, ended within centuries of contact. The last mammoths on Earth were not killed by climate change. They were found. Part 5. What the last ones experienced. Mammoths are not elephants. The behavioral parallels are strong, but they are not identical. We do not know with certainty what a mammoth felt in the way we do not know with certainty what any animal feels. Science is appropriately careful about these claims. But here is what the evidence allows us to say. The last mammoth population on Wrangel Island was small, isolated. The individuals within it would have known each other the way elephants in a small herd know each other. By voice, by scent, by years of shared movement across the same landscape. When members of the herd began disappearing, the social disruption that followed would have registered. Elephant herds that lose members show measurable behavioral changes, increased vigilance, changed movement patterns, altered vocalizations. The herd responds to loss as a collective event. The wrangle.
Mammoths, as the population shrank, would have been responding to that shrinkage in the same ways their elephant relatives respond to loss today. Not with understanding of what was happening to them in any abstract sense, but with the behavioral architecture that produces grief and vigilance and distress communication in their closest living relatives. And the specific distress communication that elephants direct toward other species, the approach behaviors and vocalizations that researchers have described as the elephant equivalent of seeking help, would have been available to the mammoths as a behavioral option when the familiar social solutions stopped working. Whether any mammoth ever approached a human in distress rather than in threat is not documented. It could not be documented. The people on Wrangel Island did not leave written records of what the encounters looked like. What they left was a record of the outcome: bones, and then silence. We did not kill the mammoth because we did not know better. We killed it at the same time we were painting it on cave walls with extraordinary care and detail. At the same time we were living close enough to observe the individual curve of a specific tusk. At the same time we were sharing landscapes with an animal whose closest living relative grieves its dead and remembers its past and communicates its distress in ways that cross species lines. The comfortable version of the mammoth extinction is that the climate changed and the mammoths could not adapt, and nobody is responsible. The scientific consensus has moved away from that version. The evidence points at us. 30,000 years of coexistence, followed by a few thousand years of increasingly effective hunting, followed by silence. The mammoths on Wrangel Island survived 6,000 years without us. They did not survive finding us. Whether they communicated anything in those final centuries that we should have understood differently is a question we cannot answer. We were not listening in a way that left a record. What we left instead is a frozen island with the bones of the last ones in it, and a species that is now being reconstructed from a 72,000-year-old skull in a laboratory in Dallas. Colossal Biosciences is attempting to produce the first mammoth variant calves by 2028. The same species we hunted off a remote Arctic island 4,000 years ago, being rebuilt, slowly, from what we left behind. Whether that is redemption or something more complicated is a question worth sitting with. If the full story of what is being built to bring them back is what keeps you watching, our last video covers the animals that are already alive. Watch 15 mind-blowing facts about the de-extinct dire wolf pups next. 3 animals reconstructed from ancient DNA, fully grown, hunting together, and behaving in ways that nobody at Colossal fully predicted. The mammoth program is next, the dire wolf program already delivered, and Fact 7 will stay with you.